Hey folks, welcome back to the Leeds Gamer. A couple of weeks ago I did a video about Glasgow Celtic and how bad they were doing under the new manager that they got in, and did quite a long video about it. And then I remembered that one of my friends, Kevin, is a big Celtic fan. So I asked him if he'd be interested in giving his view on, what he feels is not going quite right for Celtic at the minute, and he's kindly come on to do a video. So welcome in, Kev. And, thanks for popping on. So we'll start with the man in question, Mr. Wilfred Nancy, who he's not exactly Mr. Popular number one in the green half of Glasgow, is he, at the moment? So on the website here, let's have a look. So this is his biography. French, with a name like Nancy, you'd expect that. Because there's a yeah, it's like Wilfred Nancy. Yeah. But he probably should have managed Nancy in the France league, shouldn't he? Really, but you never know. Never say never. He may well do it. So we can see here that he's previously managed Columbus Crew and CF Montreal. I mean, I don't know if that's now Montreal Impact or whatever they're called these days. But he was born in Le Havre, who again have a football team in the French league. Playing career saw him turn out as a defender for 10 years, and then moved to Canada. Oh yeah. It was the was Montreal Impact Academy there, according to this. Yeah. So I guess my first observation of this, Kev, is that he's coming to a job where he's obviously going to be under a lot of pressure. Because of the expectations that you have at Celtic. So I guess the first question is, how do you feel that he's done? Just from a generic point of view, has he done enough so far?
Well, as you say, he's got a couple of heavy number one right there, isn't it? I don't know buying into it. He's system. And I can see why. The thing is, he's only thrown in the deep end. And I just think it's not his fault. Obviously, it's not his fault, but I think it's not the Celtic fans' fault either. They don't have to put up this. It's all been down to the boards, really. The system, that's why Rodgers left. Because he wasn't getting the players he was getting promised. The whole thing on scale. So I had to make a decision to bring the manager in. And if I'm really honest, I wouldn't have brought Nancy in. He's unknown. But then again, so was that sport football. He was unknown as well. But again, I think any manager that comes in, I think they deserve a chance to prove themselves. And unfortunately, when it comes to this, we broke that much time together.
Yeah, no, and that's that's fair point. It's the expectation of being, basically the biggest club in Scotland, and in the last 25 years, obviously the most successful due to, Celtic's biggest rival Rangers being out of the division for 4 years. 3 years, 4 years, whatever it was. But I mean, when Celtic were obviously looking for a new manager, and they brought in club legend Martin O'Neill on an interim basis, and I think he won like 7 out of his 8 games or something, didn't he? He went on a good run, didn't he? And whilst all of this has been going on, they've obviously been looking at options, and out of all of the applicants, and we've got to assume that Celtic must have had a large number of applicants. It is a big job, even though managing in Scotland is not ever going to be the most prestigious thing you can ever do in managing a football club. It is still a European power at the end of the day. So, I mean, do you think, just based on this biography that you can see on the screen now, do you think that there's enough credentials for Wilfred Nancy that suggest that he would ever be able to be good enough for Celtic?
Honestly, I don't think so. You mentioned Martin Hill, obviously he's got historical, but with Celtic stuff like that, I wouldn't even see that for the first thing. When he came back, it was like, I can't remember how many games he played now, was it 4 or 5 games or something?
I think I'd read that he managed 8 games and won 7 of them in all competitions.
It was 8 games. He brought the feeling back to Celtic again. He had that real chant and stuff like that. All the fans back him, the fans were all back, were loving the club again.
Oh yeah.
As soon as he left, it's just one flat again. And to be honest with you, I've actually watched a few games from Nancy's games, and to be honest with you, I played good football, but it's hard to get back. It's just what I've seen is far too open. And all it takes is just to move the ball off the park, into your half, and someone on the run will get that was. I mean, that's what happened in the game that we lost. And it happened against one of the Birmingham there. And it was Millwall actually totally dominated us. It stopped us from playing. And I think that's what teams need to do at Celtic. To stop Celtic playing well. Celtic are playing well under Lindsay, playing really good football. But as soon as someone stops up Harden, we're screwed. You need to have a grit, I think. But sometimes the 3 games like that, sometimes you get not to be nice. So, I think you need to, you can't just have it off resilient football. It's just no way to happen, especially at all.
I mean, do you feel that the style of player that Nancy's trying to incorporate on the current squad is just something that the current squad is not capable of learning? Is it a style that...
And also it's what it's probably worked in America, right? So with that, we go there as well.
Yeah, massively.
You need to go and squad. I mean, obviously you get time. You have a system like that squad in America. But you need that same that league as I just don't think you really get that.
No.
You got to Celtic, you need to hit the ground running. Same with Rangers as well.
Yeah.
The fans are too patient.
Yeah, because there's an expectancy to win games. When you are one of the 2 biggest clubs in the entirety of Scotland, there's always that expectancy that you will win more than you draw or lose, and unfortunately for Nancy so far, he's got more losses than he's got wins and draws, hasn't he?
Aye. Sorry, no disrespect to Leeds or anything like that, but it's just like Leeds are they're not expected to win the league. Year in, year out. I mean, that's what Celtic Rangers expect to win the league every season. I'm not just talking Leeds, I'm talking everybody in that Rangers Premier. I mean, they're not going to get one team winning every year unless Man City how much money.
I mean that's another thing again into the amount of money that's available in the Scottish Premiership is only a fraction of what's available in the English Premier League, and that disparity again is just it's massive. It's almost like the gulf between the top clubs in the English Championship and the Premier League. Again, you've got that massive financial gap between the two, and you could almost compare the amount of money in the English Championship to maybe certainly the kind of money that maybe Celtic and Rangers currently have available to them. And that might be a bit wrong, I think. But then again, if you get a rich owner in, and if you've managed your spending well, you can. I mean, Birmingham spent £30 million in League One. Before they got promoted to Championship, which is obscene money because Leeds spent £30 million in the Championship the same season.
That's the thing. Celtic are cash rich. Would be cash rich for long. Start spending money like that.
This is the problem. If you don't get European, if you don't get Champions League, this is why Leeds went into bloody freefall, because when they stopped being in Champions League after being knocked out in semi-final of Champions League, they only qualified for UEFA Cup then, and that didn't have as much money, and all the big players that we'd bought them on stupidly large contracts. It messed it all up, and these things happen. But yeah, that's another thing entirely, isn't it? That if it's a big if, but if Celtic don't qualify for Champions League, the financial implications there would be massive, wouldn't they?
I think it brings Rangers a little bit closer to Celtic. Rangers in a way they're still licking their wounds from they made that top pick in the divisions. They're just still trying to get back to where they were. They're spending a lot of money. They're working on a loss every year.
Yeah.
I know the rest. I just know financially they're nowhere near that Celtic's in. And this is a big frustration in what Celtic fans. Celtic should be way miles ahead of Rangers right now.
Well, just purely on the basis that Rangers spent 3 seasons out of the Scottish Premiership, so they'd have had less money.
I mean, the thing is, but you can't keep spending. But what the Celtic fans want Celtic to progress in Europe. Obviously, they've done well against Bayern Munich, but and Celtic fans want to see progression on that. Yes, he's spending a lot of money. He's still going to keep that. Celtic fans just need to set for a Scottish team, and that's it. They're never going to keep the big boys like that. They're always going to get underdogs.
Yeah.
Always will. Especially in the Scottish League.
Yeah. The Scottish League simply does not have the money that, like, the English Premier League has, for example. So, just having a look at the squad. Now, if there's, and as you've mentioned, there's one thing that Nancy can't be blamed for, and that is the current squad. None of these are his players. Like, absolutely none of them. So, let's just see where your squad's currently good enough and where it needs improvement. Well, even I...
Sorry, you see that squad there? Obviously, Nancy's really done really well with that squad. Martin Hill came in, he got played.
And this is why I'm kind of thinking with all this that regardless of how good or how not so good this squad is, O'Neill got a tune out of him, and he got the tune immediately as well. And he got a tune out of him immediately. It was like he lost literally one game, and I think that was one of the European games.
It was actually players that weren't doing that well. It was to see the Army Engels. I was like, he was there longer. That boy from the it's just that because they've done that. It's just absolute shite. It's easy to get by the first time. It's close. And it's hard to get here on the one second. And it was playing under a new or I had the right. It's much different there. That's the way.
Oh yeah.
I just think you need the estate.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's the well, you need to over. You need to go over the first thing. I think the ECE, the rest of them, I think it's Rob's well. Either that good or either that bad.
Right.
I think this is what the players want to actually pick up a lot. It's a good vote here.
Yeah. I think there were some pundits that were basically saying, has Martin O'Neill just papered over the cracks of the fact that the squad really is not that good, and just somehow got a good tune out of them for the majority of 8 games. And if the squad is not that good, and they've got to adapt to a completely new style under Nancy, compared to O'Neill, compared to Rodgers, this is what you're going to get. So as we've said, the one thing that can never be held against Nancy is that nobody in this squad is his, is it? Like he's not promoted any of these from the academy. He's not bought or signed any of these from other clubs, has he? No. Yeah. So just starting with the goalkeepers, then. I mean, I like Celtic. I've liked Celtic, for a long time. Going back to the days when Tommy Burns was manager. So kind of back into the mid-90s. But I can tell you straight away, your goalkeeping department's weak. Primarily your first choice. Your first choice keeper is Schmeichel's what 39 now. He's
done well when he first started, right? I thought it was a good replacement for Hart.
right.
But he's been doing all that. He's as if he's overweight as well. But
He still relies on this stupid star jump, right? He was doing that when he had one season at Leeds, and I mean this is going back a while now. I can't remember if we were League One or Championship, but we had Kasper Schmeichel for one season. He conceded 69 goals. Now it wasn't all his fault. The defence in front of him was a bit shite, but he was culpable for quite a lot of it. And that ridiculous star jump that he does because he thinks it makes him look big, and it doesn't save anything. It just looks like a pillock. I'm sorry, I just don't like the guy. I don't rate him as a goalkeeper.
he's nowhere near as bad.
No, and probably never will be. So if it were me, if I, especially going into the January transfer window, which is always a notoriously difficult window, I would either be looking to see if Sinisalo is any good, or, because I doubt that Ross Doohan's anywhere near being considered for the first team, even though he is the third. No. So immediately I'd be thinking, right, Celtic need a new first choice goalkeeper.
Well, I used to sell. I used to sell to get someone else and have him as a backup.
Yeah,
He's not just solid.
No, and he's still gonna. Isn't he still something like 24, 25? He's relatively young for a goalkeeper, isn't he? Who's that?
Marcus. He's a good goalkeeper for Celtic. He's absolutely shiny in there, but he's playing in. I think he's playing in ESE or something like that. He's playing absolutely in it. I'll go back there.
Yeah, Celtic's had some decent goalkeepers in the past, haven't they? The Polish fella that were there a long time. Yeah. No, I'll go back a bit. What were he called? I think he was a bit like that Hungarian fella that wore tracky bottoms. I think he was Polish. Boruk. That's it. Arta Boruk. Yeah. He was an absolute hothead, wasn't he? But he was a decent goalkeeper. The holy goalie. Yeah. As I say, the goalkeeping department obviously needs work, and that starts with getting rid of Schmeichel. He's past it now. Needs to go to MLS if he wants to keep playing. Really, MLS or go to Saudis and get a big paycheck. At 39 now, he really needs to be considering his future, doesn't he? Really.
I think he's got to do as well. There's a lot of injuries. A lot of people in the operating table there. Once you get it, like that's about 3 or 4 out of there. People pretty low. After Johnson, he's out of there. Injured. Carter Vickers.
I'd heard that Carter Vickers was unavailable. Yeah. Yeah. Well, when I look at the list of defenders here, your two fullbacks, Tierney and Ralston, both of those are good, but has Ralston been poor?
He's not that great.
Right. I mean, in terms of centre backs, I mean, if you put the two Americans together, Carter Vickers and Trusty, I mean, is that a good enough partnership?
I think trusting Carl Back is that a great girl. I mean, as you say, Carl Back is out now, so that's why he's sweet now. He's a heart of that defence.
And again, this is the thing. You can't rely on sick notes, can you? You know, this is the problem. You need players to be available.
I feel sorry for Scales. He's but he's he's got a ball skill as well.
And I mean, if you were choosing a back line, whether you go three centre backs or you go a traditional back four, or you even go back five, so with two wing backs and three centre backs, who out of this bunch, if they were all fit and available, who would get into your defence?
Also, you get Trusty, Vickers.
Yeah.
Really good player, but he's fighting him something back. He's like there's a back. I'm going to have to say that back there. I mean, three back here, the back three.
Is this fella any good in Amora?
It's not bad, right? I mean, we need to get a couple of these. All the boys you see there, they're not good enough. That boy in the home there, sorry.
Donovan?
Donovan? He's a good player. He's really good.
I mean,
He's a something that
I kind of look at this, right. I look at your set of defenders, and I think to myself, Trusty and Carter Vickers, they were both decent in the English Championship, and I say decent. Like they were good without being amazing. And this is just from what I remember when Leeds came up against the two of them. Like Trusty was at Sheffield United, Carter Vickers. I can't exactly remember where Carter Vickers was playing. I think he might have started his career at Reading, possibly before Reading got relegated to League One. I could be wrong, but I know that both of them have played in the English Championship before now. I'm totally in agreement with you. You need a proper centre back. So I can remember, Mialby, for example. He were a beast at centre back, wasn't he, back in the day? Bobo Baldi, what a player! Like. And they were both there at a similar time, weren't they? I think Mialby and Baldi. I think they played together. Such a good partnership compared to anyone that you've got in this squad. I mean, it's clear that the defence needs work, isn't it? You need to replace Schmeichel. Sinisalo probably acts as a decent enough backup, and then with the defenders, as you say, maybe Carter Vickers and Trusty currently as your centre backs. Right. Well, they'd be the two fullbacks, would they? Johnson and Donovan. Would they be fullbacks? Yeah. Trusty and Vickers. Yeah. Right. Well, moving on to the midfield then. So now, from what I've seen, this fella's good, Nygren. He's at the very least he's producing goals and assists for you, which is something. Does he? No. But he's doing something at least, isn't he? He's seemingly getting involved, and out of the entire squad is probably one of the first on the team sheet if you're looking to 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 create something. I would imagine. Is that how you view it?
Aye, there's a fire. You get in there, get some goals.
Kind of like I don't know, like a V-Ghost or a Moravkic or Nakamura.
I wouldn't say they're not as good as that.
No. Well, again, these kind of players are players that kind of got themselves into Celtic Hall of Fame, didn't they? If there was one. Yeah.
He's like new version of it.
I mean, as I say, I don't think there's anyone in the current squad that's anywhere near the levels that Celtic have had in the past. That's
One thing I listened to character, look at it, there's no last character, I can't say is what's swap out. There's just players.
yeah.
There's no one player you can actually say that's their thing. Who or the whole character would be great, but football.
Yeah. Again, when you think of really good players, but also players that if you made a Celtic Hall of Fame, that there's literally nobody in the current squad that'd get in it. Even if they were managed and coached better, there's nobody in this squad that'd get anywhere near. And I'm still talking relatively modern era, so anything from 1990 onwards. I personally from the little bits that I've seen.
The only thing I would say would suit from older is see Minder. Guys Minder, I think he would you see that guy if he was right, you see a big difference with him.
Yeah. So now, obviously, like again from the outside looking in, Nagrin's doing his bit. Engels, any good?
It's overweight. I think he's a good boy. He's spent 11 million on. I think it had expectations of bringing him on and putting him on for 50 million or something like that. There's no way he's going to be that. And again, I think he's playing under the wrong manager. I think when Neil came back, that's a big massive criticism. He's able to get his teeth in the box and stuff like that. Right now, he can't even get it by the first man. That's the problem. They don't have a proper set piece as well.
No, it makes a difference. I mean, like Leeds are doing quite well with their set pieces this season. They've used it as a bit of a weapon, partially on the basis that and Daniel Farke, the Leeds manager, said it himself that we don't have the quality of player to compete against the quality of player of the players in Manchester City, for example, or in Arsenal. So we've got to use other methods that can work. And set pieces is definitely one of them. I think we're in the top 5 in the division for set piece goals this season. Which is actually a massive improvement, because in the Championship we were crap at set pieces. Apart from Joe Rothwell, who ironically went on to join Rangers. But Rothwell's yeah, but that's another thing that you just simply can't use at the moment, because you haven't got anyone that's got the confidence to put in a quality ball. Yeah. No. Well, I mean, we'll get onto the strikers in a minute. I don't know anything about this Paulo Bernardo. What's he like?
He first came in. She showed up promising. I think it's about half the season. She showed pretty well. And they signed him. He went on loan first, pretty sure.
Right.
And then they gave him a full-time contract. It was so how well he was doing.
Right.
And just away. I think it's just a whole classic. If you have a workplace, someone's got a temporary contract, you try to fuck, you try and get a full-time contract, and soon you get that full-time contract.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe the whole classic just for that. He's not really done much since he was full-time. I think he's talking injured for that as well.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah, I mean, that never, like, an injury record never helps a player. There's no doubt about that. But there's a lot of players that will play their absolute socks off to gain a contract if they're on loan, and they know that they're out of the plans of the parent club. And so if they go on loan and they play their absolute socks off, they're either going to get a contract. They're either going to be bought by the club they've been loaned to, or they're putting themselves in the shop window to get a transfer elsewhere, aren't they? So, it sounds to me as if Bernardo's maybe of that kind of situation, if you like. And then finally, maybe two of what you'd like to think might be two of your more reliable midfielders, Rio Atati and long-serving captain and midfielder Callum McGregor. I mean, again, from the outside looking in, if I was going like an all-style traditional 4-4-2, there's comfortably four players that stick out: Nygren, Engels, Atati, and McGregor. I don't know anything about McCowan or Bernardo. What's your take on that?
McCown's more a bench player. That was again, he's a trier. He's a Celtic man as well.
Right.
He is tries his hard. Celtic Park is just low class.
Just lacks the ability.
Sorry?
Just lacks the ability, basically.
That's it. He's like a fit around, basically. That's what he's like. We're real at that. Again, he's kind of off the boil a wee bit. Again, not because I'm the right manager. What's the only brought him in?
I mean, this is the thing. Like, from what I could tell, Atati was, him and Kyogo and Maeda, like those guys that were brought in by Postecoglou, when they were all there and when they were all being managed by the guy that brought them in, they were showing their quality, weren't they? But now, because that little group has been broken up, and ultimately the manager's gone, I mean, here's a question for you, Kev. If Nancy was to get sacked, would you take Postecoglou back?
I think about the heartbeat, right? But I don't like backwards. I always like forwards,
Yeah. So you'd look to try to get somebody else.
Because this is what Martin as well. Okay, a few games. But the thing is, Martin was in his 70s now.
I mean, that's the other thing, isn't it? O'Neill didn't know how long he could potentially take the interim position, did he? He said it on TalkSport that, he wasn't expecting to get called, was he?
I think what's the Coldly thing wrong? I think 60, is not.
Could be. Yeah, he'll be in his late 50s, I think, at the very least. Yeah.
But that's obviously a youngish and a manager. There's fresh ideas, but I think he's just too gung-ho with what I think. You need to have a lot of answers just go.
Yeah. One thing I noticed about Nancy is that it was I think it was the interview after I don't know if it was after the loss against St Mirren in the Cup or if it was maybe the league match afterwards. But he got asked a question and he started getting very defensive and very bullish in his response. He was fairly calm on the interview, and then he just got asked this one question, and he started getting angry, and yeah, this was Nancy getting interviewed, and it rubbed him up the wrong way. He wasn't happy with the question. No, this was like he hadn't won a game. He hadn't won a game by this point, I don't think.
If you've not seen the press conference today, if you watch that, he kind of lost it.
And you see again, if you're the manager of a club like Glasgow Celtic, you've got to be a manager that can deal with the journalists, and deal with the pundits when you're interviewed and people like that. And if he can't keep a cool head because things aren't going his way, then maybe he's not cut out for a job of this size. That's.
The thing is, he's a lot of pressure, a lot of shoulders, but again, it's not his fault.
No, but then should he have applied for the job?
I don't think he completely 100% applied for it. I think he's actually for the job.
So he was actually approached by your hierarchy.
I think he was actually approached, and obviously his head's come. He's not been interested in it.
Yeah, I mean, like there aren't many managers that would turn down the opportunity to manage Glasgow Celtic. Like they very much like Leeds. They've got a rich history. They're a team that constantly play in Europe because they've got no other competition elsewhere anyway. Certainly until this season. So it's understandable. I mean, again, to me, if these are the only midfielders, I mean, you're relying on 6 midfielders here. It's bet in terms of the quality there. It's better than what you've got in defence and in goal. But again, you could do with at least 2 more quality midfielders. I would have said personally. Yeah. So moving on to strikers then, and I mean, again, with the forwards, they always seem to include wingers as well in the forward line, don't they? But now, if I remember rightly, Jota got sold, and then he got brought back. Is that right? Yeah. He went for that. Right. Okay. I've heard a lot of bad stuff about Yang. There's a lot of fans and a lot of pundits that really feel Yang is just way out of his depth. Is he? Right. I don't know anything about this Balikwisha. Well,
he was another keeper. It was actually for ages. One of them was like, great striker, great signing. Absolutely crap. That's the why I've seen him.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going to talk about a player who's massively overrated certainly in my humble opinion, Kelechi Iheanacho. I remember when he came through the Manchester City academy and looked a real prospect, got a couple of games, at Man City at the time. And then, with the moves that he's had since, and I remember he was at Leicester, and he weren't that good. And then he might have been at one other club, and he's just never been the goal scorer that he was expected to be. After showing quite a bit of promise as a relatively young player, and he must be at least 30 now, I would have thought. And that's the other thing with Iheanacho. He has had an injury plagued history. Yeah, without a doubt. But even in Championship, I think Leicester signed him in Championship when Leicester were in Championship same season as Leeds, and Iheanacho was poor then. You know what I mean? He wasn't much good then. I think Celtic literally only picked him up because he was on a free. I think he was a free transfer, wasn't he? Oh, maybe. But he not very good. Yamada, what's he like? Osman looks like a kid. I'm assuming he's just. Yeah. Well, he looks young enough to improve. He only looks a kid in that picture, doesn't he? From Bolton, right? Okay. Right. Yeah. Tenecti. No. Johnny Kenny, now, from what I can gather, he's played quite a bit for Celtic this season, but he just doesn't know how to score goals. He's he's still relatively young, but just lacks the quality.
positions you're in now. You should be trying to lose yourself positioning, and he's just not really good enough to. He's Irish, he's a Celtic fan, he's probably Celtic blood and all that, right? It doesn't matter, you need to be able to finish.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're going to play for Celtic as a number 9, you've got to have goal scoring capability. You look at Larsson, Viduka, just to name a couple. They were absolute goal machines. They were proper number 9s, and Johnny Kenny's nowhere near that. Even Chris Commons, who wasn't even a striker, was able to score goals. John.
Nonsense defensive as well. See, he had a decent striker who could actually finish it. That's the job. And honestly, I Celtic were buying him. They're running 3-4-0 a lot of games now. They're just it's as if he doesn't really care about his defence as long as he's buying into the 3 or 4 goals a game. He doesn't care about the 2 goals that get lost every game for the round about it. You need to be able to have a striker finish it to like the job.
Yeah.
That's what I think he's lacking. He's a striker. He needs a Hearts and Celtic Rangers or something.
Yeah, I mean, again, you mentioned there, like, Hearts, and I remember Hartson when he was at Arsenal before he went to Celtic, and Hartson was just a big unit, wasn't he? But he was very capable. Like Hartson and Sutton together as a partnership were very good, weren't they? You can't.
They were all right. I think I've seen the Larson left, but Sutton wasn't the same player. That was a partnership, Sutton and Larson. You had Sutton and Hartson up front. Right, and the 2 big danger men, but just like I had the same quality of finesse that Larson had. So,
oh no, I mean Larsson was another quality above, wasn't he, without a shadow of a doubt. Even Viduka. I mean, like, Celtic only had Viduka for 1 or 2 seasons, but Leeds bought him for £6 million, and he was one of the best bloody signings that Leeds had made in that era. He just he had power, he had pace, he could finish, he could score with his head, score with his feet, like Viduka could do a bit of everything. Just an absolute unit of a number 9 and a total goal machine. So I kind of think to even the times when you had like Lee Griffiths up front, didn't you, for a while? Was he? Yeah. Nakamura, very good player. Yeah. So and then these two. I mean, I'd have been quite happy if Leeds had tried to get Maeda. I was hoping Leeds might have targeted Maeda. At the start of the season.
I'm going to be honest with you, right? I don't know if you can actually name one. In recent times, can you name one decent, one Celtic there that's went and played somewhere decent actually made a difference? And I said that, there's a great for decent money here, so you've got Jota without any $5 million.
Oh, you mean that a player that's played for Celtic and then gone to another club and then done well, and you're right, there aren't many. Like even look at Kyogo, who's gone to the English Championship to play with Birmingham, and he's Birmingham aren't doing all that well, and Kyogo's not doing all that well. I did originally, yeah. Aye. But no, you're right. There aren't many really. I mean, who's that? Sorry. All right. Where? He's the German fella, isn't he? Where did he go? Maybe something like Frankfurt, or he wouldn't have gone to like Leverkusen or Bayern Munich, would he? He wouldn't have gone to either big boys. Yeah.
To get out of that role.
No. No, I mean it happened, but this is the nature of the Scottish Premiership, isn't it? You know, you're a big fish in a small pond, and then as soon as you go elsewhere, it's a different kettle of fish. But I mean,
That's just the point you're making about Minder. He's an
right,
absolutely an animal. He causes so much anxiety in defences and stuff like that. See if like the ball getting passed about his, he's right on the keeper, see if the ball's going back to the keeper, just right on him.
mm,
It's just it causes so much anxiety and panic. It's unbelievable. It's point watching. But I just don't know if he's going to have the same impact
I,
because of this.
I saw the highlights of one at Celtic games, and Maeda missed from like a yard out.
Aye, I mean, he's not. Again, he could be a fighter ball sphere, but sometimes he's old as well. It's just he's not a great player, but he puts a lot of work in. He's
Yeah.
such a grafter.
Mm, mm. And then obviously, you know, James Forrest, who's scored for about 14 consecutive seasons for Celtic now, hasn't he? But again, you can't rely on a 34-year-old James Forrest, can you? You know, he's
He's a legend. He's a legend. He's been there. He's won so. I think he's won the most trophies ever as a Celtic player.
mm.
But again, he's getting on now.
Yeah, he's no disrespect to the fellow at all, but he's just past his best. You know, that's all it is. So, you know, when you go through, you know, this squad, we'll just have a quick look at the ones that are low now. Naroki's at Hanover, Welsh is at Motherwell, Montgomery's at Livingston, Holmes at Los Angeles FC, and Palmer is at Lech Poznan. So I'd have to assume. Would any of these five get into the squad at the moment if they were not loaned out?
Almost, obviously played well in the home, played well, but again, it's a new system as well. It's under Mike Sutton played in this good team compared to the Celtic are. It's just a lot of players need to look careful in the field under a certain manager. Just need to go somewhere to finish. That's what you should see.
Oh yeah, well I mean again you look at how different these players were playing under O'Neill for 8 games. You know they won 7 of them. You know it kind of makes you wonder is Nancy the right manager for this squad? Because bearing in mind it's going to take him a minimum of probably 4 transfer windows to get the squad that he wants, where it basically removes probably 2/3 to 3/4 of this current squad for him to then bring in his own. One of the reasons that Daniel Farker is working quite well at Leeds at the moment is that 3/4 of the squad is his. There's only Pascal Strauch, who was there before he joined. Ilan Melier, but he's kind of out of the equation. Jack Harrison, but again he's out of the equation. Nonto, he's kind of a substitute for us at the minute. Dan James was here before he joined, but as I say, there's you know about at least 2/3 of this Leeds squad now are all Farker's signings, and the ones who aren't Farker's signings, the majority of them have still adapted to Farker's coaching. So, you know, my take on this is, from a Celtic point of view, is, I mean, I agree with you that, you know, Nancy hasn't really had enough time to be able to implement his style on the team. But because of those expectation levels, that, you know, Celtic are expected to win the Premiership every single season without fail. The fact that Hearts have had a fair chunk of time in top position, you know, is kind of testament to how poor Celtic have been under Nancy so far. You know,
That's the thing, you get a lot more time. See if you're actually in India, people like Hearts or have a loan, then they get time to try and implement
yeah,
that style of play.
yeah,
But when you come to Celtic and Rangers, you get a hit the ground running. They win it, they win.
yeah.
That's just the nature of the role.
It's the reality, isn't it?
See, Nancy did well, playing great football and hammered teams and all that, but unless it's happening from the start, it's going to work.
I mean, would you, you know, would you sacrifice some of the current style for substance? You know, if it was going to get you more wins and less losses, but Nancy basically says, right, okay, you know what, I've come to my senses here. The style I want with this current squad is just not going to work. Kind of like what Farker's just done recently at Leeds. You know, we've gone 6 unbeaten, and basically 6.5 games where Farker has changed the style at Leeds. After Farker was adamant that he was going to have Leeds play a certain style that he wanted, but Farker has been adaptable. Do you see Nancy being adaptable to be, you know, to the current Celtic squad?
I don't know. The thing is, it's like, as I say, it's entertaining to watch. Playing, like that football all the time. But if you're going to pay that to one against Rangers, they're going to get from out. It's going to get hammered. I mean, in my opinion, it's still going to work. I don't think so.
I mean, if Celtic get hammered by Rangers this weekend, does Nancy get the sack?
I think she should get the sack, but I think the rules are still going to be back. I think it's still going to be a lot of backing from the road.
And do you think there's any chance that you don't get hammered? Are Rangers good enough to hammer Celtic right now? That's the other question, because obviously Rangers aren't doing amazing either. So are Rangers currently good enough to give Celtic a walloping? Let's say a minimum of a 4-goal difference.
Celtic played the way they played against Motherwell. I thought we were back. Rangers are great at hitting the break. I'm absolutely brilliant at it.
Right.
Just Celtic that full game, Celtic will get absolutely lost that full game if they keep it up. And you need to have some games where it's shite to watch.
That's what I'm saying. So would you sacrifice some of the style for substance, just to try and guarantee some results?
You need points to fail. You can't say, well, it played great, but you need 5 games. That's not good enough.
Yeah.
You get points. You need points on your legs. That's it.
I mean, this is something that's happened with Leeds. I mean, this is something that's happened with Leeds over the last 6.5 games. You know, they've mixed up the style. So like when I think it was the Crystal Palace game where we beat them 4-1, and a lot of it was heavily based on set pieces and long throws, but it was effective, and we walloped them. You know, we beat them 4-1. Probably had no right to really, but we were that good, and we made Palace look very poor. But then against some of these other teams, you know, like, I mean, the 0-0 draw with Liverpool was just backs to the wall. It was it was basically an 8-1-1 formation. You know, like we literally parked the bus for a lot of it. It was great defending, you know, like a real good example of how you defend against a team that's, you know, like Ekitike, who cost Liverpool 80 million quid. You know, good striker, don't get me wrong, but you know, for the most part, we kept him quiet. We didn't even have our first choice defence because we're missing Joe Rodon and Jayden Bogle. Both of those weren't in the starting 11. So.
I actually mentioned that 8-1-1. I don't remember Scotland and under Craig Woody. He played a 6-4-0.
Oh God, did he? I mean, this was the thing. Like when we went into this Liverpool game, when I saw the lineup and we started with 3 DCMs, and the last time that we played with 3 DCMs, we were turgid. It was a dreadful performance. It was earlier on in the season. Can't remember who against now. But you know, we'd set up to stifle Liverpool. Now, I'm kind of thinking that with the way that Celtic have been playing under Nancy, they're going to have to try and stifle Rangers. You know, and they're going to have to play with at least one pacey defender that, if Rangers are good at hitting teams on the counter-attack, they're going to need at least one defender that can bomb on back and try and make a last-ditch tackle or interception or whatever.
That's the thing. It's something like frustrating on these games. It's something basically defend yourself. It's not fair. It's see how he's actually good. Well, he's the one defending here.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of who's available to you at this moment in time, if we were taking this Celtic versus Rangers match in isolation for this weekend or whenever it's been played, who gets in your 11? So, start with goalkeepers. Who starts out of these three?
I think we're going to have to look at Sal. It's Michael's. He's lost it well. He's lost it well. I just don't like it. I don't rate him. You even seen him against Scotland with Denmark. It was absolutely terrible.
I mean, and again, it's a bit of a joke that Denmark are still relying on Schmeichel at the age of 39 as well. Into you'd think the Danes would have somebody else coming through. So if you were in charge, you'd start with Sinicello in goal. Who'd be in your defence? Well, what formation would you play?
I think that will go through. Can't bring this back to the Rangers. You have a bad defence here, so basically have Steels and Trusty in the middle.
Right.
And you have Tierney and the other boy there,
Donovan.
Donovan, sorry, aye.
Okay. And then
That right, you get him. Well, not really much choice here in the midfield, have we?
well, no, not with it being only 6 of them.
We have Hackney and Gregor in there.
Yeah.
I think they did just strike it if Forwards in there. I think you could maybe bring one of the Forwards back.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. It's like, do you sacrifice someone like Maeda who, on his day can be a good player? Yeah. Kind of picks itself, doesn't it? With you only having six midfielders, and then up front. I mean, do you? I mean, this is the problem. Like to me, like Celtic, the Celtic squad, it just lacks so much quality compared to teams of not that long ago.
Even I think
yeah. So again, that's you're lacking a quality number 9. For want of anything else, you're lacking a natural goal scorer or a fully fledged number 9. I mean, when I think of the players that aren't getting a lot of game time at Leeds right now, and if I was thinking to myself, is there any Leeds players that potentially Celtic could get that would improve your squad currently? Meslier is not playing. I still believe that Meslier is a decent goalkeeper, and I think he'd be an upgrade on Schmeichel. And probably Sinicello as well. I mean, I don't know enough about Sinicello or doing, but I can tell you now, Schmeichel's past it. Simple as. So I think that Meslier, he's 24, 25. He's got loads of time. I still think he's got a high ceiling of potential. If he's coached right. There's the French connection between Nancy and Meslier as well, possibly. So I'd be thinking you put Meslier in goal. We don't really have any backup defenders that aren't getting time at the moment because there's only really Sam Byron, but he wouldn't make any difference now. He's 31, about 31-year-old now, so he's kind of like Leeds' backup fullback. James Justin just recently played against Liverpool, and we're playing with a back 3, so we haven't got any backup defenders that could help you in that regard. from a midfield point of view, Jack Harrison's currently not playing. He's a winger, and I think if Harrison was coached right, his best season under in a Leeds shirt was back when we had Marcelo Bielsa in charge, and he got 8 goals and 8 assists in one full season in the Premier League for Leeds. No, not bad at all. Not bad at all. So if he's coached right, I mean, at the moment, like Harrison just does not fit the system under Farker, and he didn't fit the system under Dyche at Everton. He had a loan spell at Everton, and he was crap. He was crap at Everton. I think he got like 1 assist in 2 seasons. Like, it was so bad. But I think in the Scottish Premier League or Scottish Premiership, I think Harrison could do some damage in that league, because one of the best traits of Jack Harrison is his ball control. If you get the ball to Harrison on left wing, and he is very effective, very, very effective. He scored an absolute belter against I think it was Newcastle. I think Steve Bruce was managing Newcastle, and we walloped him. I think we beat him like 3-0 or something, and Harrison got the 3rd goal, and it was absolute belter from about 30 yards out. So there is still a player in Jack Harrison. So I think that Harrison, would be a good player who's not getting game time at Leeds at the moment. He could do some damage at Celtic, against the kind of level of opposition that most of the time you're against. And then I'm trying to think if there's any midfield backups. Again, we've got a couple of midfielders unavailable at the minute, so we probably haven't got any midfielders. I mean, we've got a defensive midfielder, a Bulgarian called Ilya Gruev, who is a very good DCM, but that's all he is. He's an anchor man in front of the defence. Kind of in that pivot role, if you like, in midfield. Gruev, if it wasn't for the fact that we don't currently have Longstaff available, would possibly become available. But otherwise, we haven't really got any backups in midfield, because again, we've got Dan James unavailable, who's a winger as well. He's injured at the moment, long-term injured at the minute. I'm thinking you put Jack Harrison on wing for you, and then up front we've got a striker in Joel Pirro, who in the Championship got near enough 20 goals for Leeds last season. Got pretty much the same again the season before, and then before that he got like 20 goals in 40 games twice for Swansea in the Championship as well. He's well, no, you can't. It's the second level of English football, and he's not been given a chance in the Premier League yet. But the guy knows where the goal is. Now, there's a question mark over whether he's a natural 9 or if he's maybe like a bit more of a 10. I personally would say he's more of a 9. But he's a bit of a poacher. Get the ball to him in the box and let him do the rest. There's no question over Joel Pirro's finishing. But at the moment, he's not getting ahead of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and he's not getting ahead of Lucas Mecha. And when one of those has been unavailable, Leeds' winger Noah Okafor has played up front instead. So Pirro's just not had a look in. He's been brought on with like 5 minutes to go or whatever. And he hasn't scored yet this season. So I'm reckoning that if you had someone with some natural finishing prowess like Joel Pirro, he could do a job for you in Scottish Premiership.
I think that's his idea of Johnny Kenny coming in, but he's banging in the goals in the Irish League. It's a
different level altogether, isn't it? The Irish Premiership is not even of English Championship level. It's not. It's probably not even Scottish. Probably not even Scottish Championship, let alone English Championship. So yeah, I think for me it'd be a case of if Leeds were able, if Celtic were in a financial position to either get a full transfer or at least a loan of Meslier in goal, Harrison on the wing, and Pirro up front. I think even just with those 3 players starting for you, you've got an improvement on what you currently have. You've got a goal scorer, you've got a decent goalkeeper, and you've got a winger that can create. It's. I don't think it's going to happen. Albeit, I did hear rumours that apparently Celtic might be interested in Meslier. Mellier's in his last 6 months of his contract, so potentially Celtic could get him on a free. By the end of the season. And then obviously with Schmeichel approaching 40, Meslier is the ideal kind of goalkeeper to bring in because you're only going to be paying his wages. It's just a question. There's two things from Mellier's point of view. He rejects. Say again. Age 25. Yeah. So he's got loads of time. Leeds signed him when he was like 21 from Lorient in France, and looked like a good prospect. And he's possibly got to a point where he's just maybe hit a little bit of a ceiling. But if he could be coached better, and if he could, there's one key thing about Meslier. Chelsea were interested in him at one point, but they only wanted him as the second choice goalkeeper, and he told them to fuck off. So I'm not being a second choice keeper. And the only reason that he hasn't left Leeds is that Leeds haven't put him up for transfer, and he's basically running down his contract. Now we bought him for £5 million 4 years ago, and he's clearly not first choice now. He's behind both Carl Darlow and Lucas Perry. Now even Carl Darlow could do a job for you probably, I would say, ahead of Schmeichel. But again, Darlow's like 32 now. So he's, But again, Darlow hasn't done a lot wrong for Leeds when he has played for Leeds. Meslier does have an error in him, but he's young enough to get better. Because goalkeepers don't peak till around 30, whereas outfielders it's more 26, 27, when you get the best years out of them. So...
I remember that time he was a howler, but one of the Leeds keepers made. He was just sat there. The ball just right by him.
That was Meslier. That was Meslier, but the ball came off the bloody sprinkler. There was a sprinkler in it.
That's what it was.
Yeah. That did happen, but there was mitigating circumstances. I think it might have been. Yeah, I think it might have been the Sunderland match. Yeah. But ultimately, if you look very very closely at the pitch at the time and the point of where the ball landed, there's no way in hell that the ball could change trajectory like that. And the only argument you could have is that Meslier could have gone forward to the ball before it hit this divot, before it hit this sprinkler, or whatever it was that was there. There was definitely something on the pitch because the ball changed direction when it bounced, for Christ's sake. But Meslier got so much stick for it, and it's like you've got. Say again, sorry. Yeah, exactly. When you see it, when you see it for the first time, and you see it in real time, you see it at the speed that it happens, and you just think it's a goalkeeping howler. But then if you slow it down and if you magnify the pitch at the exact point of where that ball landed, it changes direction. If it didn't land that way, it'd have gone straight into Mellier's chest, and it'd have claimed it. It was just one of those. Bit of a freak goal, really. But it was either it either went from a win to a draw. I think it went from a win to a draw. I think we were 3-2 up. I think we were 3-2 up, and it ended up 3-3, something like that. Yeah. We definitely dropped at least a couple of points with that one. But that's not all down to Meslier. Leeds should have done more to win the game, in my opinion. But it's long gone. French. Yeah, Meslier is French. Yeah. Speaks good English now. Now that he's spent 4 years in England, his English is pretty good. He's 6'6". He's a tall lad, bit lanky, but he's a tall goalkeeper. And there was a meme done for him once where he made this really good triple save, and there was a picture of him making the third of these 3 saves, and they put a Superman cape on him. You know, it were great. You know, I still think there's a good goalkeeper in Melier, but you know, and I think that he could do a job for Celtic. And as I said, there is a genuine rumour that Celtic might be interested in trying to get him either on a. I don't think Celtic can get pre-contracted agreement with them being in Britain. I know that foreign clubs in January can get a pre-contract agreement on players playing in Britain. I don't know whether Celtic can. But with him only, you know, if Celtic were to offer a nominal fee, you know, Celtic could get him for like 500. You know, if Celtic offered today 500k, I think Leeds would take it. You know, like maybe even 100k. You know,
just to get him off the official, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Or even even like a loan. I mean, it'd be pointless doing a loan with an option to buy because his contract runs out. But you know, in the summer. But again, you know, if Leeds would be very keen to just bring in even a nominal fee for Melier at this, you know, in January, you know, that way then it's a new lease of life for Melier. And I think he could do a job at Celtic. And maybe the French connection between Nancy and Melier might, you know, there might be something in that, you know, possibly. As I say, I think Harrison would do a job for you on the left wing. And I'm certain Pirro would score goals in the Scottish League. I'm certain of it.
Well, just to add, I've heard a wee story as well that someone's signed on loan from Bournemouth. Julian something. The Mexican boy.
What? Who's signing him?
Celtic.
All right.
Actually. Julian Araujo.
All right. Okay.
Araujo.
Yeah. I've not. He's on loan from who?
He's on loan from Bournemouth. I don't know if you know much about him.
No, I've not heard of him. But I mean, again, I mean, it's clear that Celtic need reinforcements right now.
Did you see that?
A bit bright. No, there we go. Right. Yeah. No, I don't recognise him. No.
No, he's saying one and a half. He's just Rangers game. I don't know if he's going to go next. Start against Rangers. I don't know.
No. Well, I mean, it'd be on Celtic News, wouldn't it? So let's have a look at the. Like oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, welcome to Celtic, Julian Araujo. Okay, right, let's have a look. Celtic are delighted to announce that Julian Araujo has joined the club on loan from Bournemouth until the end of the season. He's a defender. Okay. Capped 16 times by Mexico. And so this is Nancy's first signing then for Celtic. Yeah. Oh yeah, you know it says he's on loan from Bournemouth until the end of the season. Yeah. Speaking after completing the move, defender says I'm really happy to join Celtic, top club, can't wait to get to work. Bring the fans success. Knows about the demands. He's met the boys, great players. Nancy says he's delighted to bring Julian to Celtic. Talented player, good level of experience, and qualities he'll bring will be beneficial to the squad. It's about as generic as it gets, isn't it, really? Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen, like, he wasn't in Bournemouth's squad when Leeds played Bournemouth earlier in the season, so I don't know if he was injured or just wasn't part of the. I certainly wasn't part of the 11. But yeah, so this is just happened this morning, hasn't it? By the looks of it, couldn't know that. Yeah.
Again, I don't think it's going to work out for Nancy. I think it's all down to that. He came at the wrong time. He did that season. I think he just came at the wrong time.
Yeah, like if he said like if the club had brought Nancy in at the start of a season, like I mean for example, right, if the club had said to Martin O'Neill when they brought O'Neill in on an interim, If they'd have said to O'Neill, right, Martin, we want you to take control of Celtic until the end of the season, and then we review the situation, right? That to me would have made sense, just from the outside looking in. I don't know what goes on a daily basis at Celtic, but from the outside looking in, to me, if the club had brought O'Neill in at the point of when Rodgers left, because O'Neill was just a pundit on TalkSport, that's what he was doing at the time. He wasn't doing anything, he wasn't managing anyone. And you just basically ask him to come in and replace Brendan Rodgers until the end of the season, and then you kind of review the situation. And if Nancy then comes in at the start of the season, as in next season, 26-27, has the summer transfer window to bring in some of his own players, has the chance to review the squad and decide who he wants to keep and who he wants to get rid of, and then is able to try and put his own stamp on the club, that maybe that would have worked out better. The fact that he's come in partway through the season is just, it's.
I think you did that yourself. It's like, see if I come in and see if I've got the players, I've brought a few transfers in, then, right, trust me then, and I've got no excuses. Because he has got a point, as you say, he's got excuses. It's nobody by yourself.
No. And to be honest, I mean, I haven't seen this Araujo play this season, so I don't know if he's any good. And if he's not getting into the Bournemouth squad, when you consider that Bournemouth are currently about 15th in the Premier League, they're having a bit of a struggle. And they drew with Leeds. They got a very late equaliser against Leeds, which I think finished either 2-2 or 3-3. It was fairly high scoring. If he can't get in the current Bournemouth squad, is that good enough for Celtic? I mean, who knows? It's a bit of a punt, isn't it? Feels like a bit of a punt. Yeah. Thank you, Kirby. Kirby just loves infiltrating my streams and recorded videos, honestly. You dafty. She wants to get in just before we end the video. Yeah, I mean, she's a bit of a veteran now at 15, for a cat, but she's probably more athletic than half of your squad. Yeah, I don't know.
As managers, I think Celtic have other options out there. Probably he seems available as a manager as well. And I thought he was doing pretty well in Cyprus. Again, there's no place, but the thing is, he knows the Celtic's got it.
Well, he did. He had a spell as a player at Celtic. I mean, he had a spell as a player at Leeds as well. I mean, I think Robbie Keane came on to Leeds' backroom staff briefly. I think it was the season we got relegated from Premier League a couple of seasons ago. I'm pretty sure Keane was on the coaching. It was brought in. I'm thinking that Robbie Keane might have been brought in by Sam Allardyce with the 4 games remaining before we got relegated, maybe. But for a brief time, he came back to Leeds as a coach. And as you say, because he's had that time he's had that time at Celtic already as a player, he knows what it's like. A lot of Irish players in the past have had, and a lot of Irish managers have had success at Celtic, haven't they? In the past, there's obviously that connection there. So yeah, without a doubt, I think that Robbie Keane would probably jump at the chance to take Celtic on. Whether Keane feels that he's ready to take on a job of that size, I don't know. All right. And any particular reason, or?
I think it was because he managed Israeli team, and Celtic fans are like Israel when Palestine thing, is a very pro-Palestine, and I see him as like an Israeli lover, and I think that's so I don't think he would kind of welcome like that. But I don't know. That's another thing I heard on that say he's actually looking at a Palestinian striker who plays in the Major League.
Ooh.
So, but I don't know what he's like.
No. But I mean that again's controversial though, isn't it? You know, like you don't want that kind of drama at the club when the club's seemingly struggling a bit. You know, in comparison to previous seasons, you almost want the deck to be cleaned, don't you? And to yeah. Yeah, just go back to enjoying watching Celtic playing a good brand of football and winning games. You know that's what it comes down to, and again it's like if you know if you look at the players that Celtic have had even in like within the last 25 years, you know before you know like not even counting the time in the 90s, you know so some of the players that they've had and you know they've gotten themselves into the proverbial Celtic Hall of Fame. There's not one player, you know, like you know, at the end of the day, McGregor took over from Brown pretty much, didn't he, as captain? Like, if I remember right, I think like McGregor came through Celtic's academy, and then when the time was right, Scott Brown was basically waiting to pass the captain's mantle onto McGregor, and then he kind of took it on from thereafter, didn't he?
I think if Tierney stayed, he would have won it. He would have beat Arsenal.
He did, yeah, and you know, I actually think that Celtic getting Tierney back was quite a good move. If you can keep Tierney fit, you know, he knows the club. He's a decent left back, you know. So
he's not really playing that great for Celtic now, that's so right. He's not really the same player since he's been back.
I mean, I don't know what the circumstances are, but I mean, would you know if Liverpool made Robertson available, would you take Robertson?
Again, it's bringing older players on. It's like one last baby before they retire. Same with McGinn. McGinn said he wanted to probably play for Celtic as well.
Oh, I'd heard that. He's currently at Villa, isn't he? Yeah, yeah.
He's pretty well. He's a decent player. It's just when he just.
Are they just going to Celtic for one more hurrah, or are they going there because they genuinely want to do the best for the club? That's the problem. So I mean, if you were kind of if you were the Celtic chairman, would you be kind of saying to the management, I want to see Celtic, you know, create a new brand of football by bringing through younger, hungrier players? Is that the kind of route that you'd want to see Celtic go over the next couple of seasons?
I think it was something. I think now the is through, but obviously you can't just rely on that. There's nobody there. I'm no team coming to the ranks. He has some quality as well. You need a back line. You can't just rely on that. There's just bringing that through. Even if you keep bringing young players through, they're not seasons enough. I know for you, they didn't have that.
I mean, do you see a future for many players in the current squad? I mean, like when you get to the end of this season, how many of the current squad would you keep?
Probably either. That's it.
Christ.
I'd probably keep that. Even McGregor is a good player. He's getting on it. They won or something, didn't they? Honestly, I don't know who would take the captain's armband off.
I mean, and that's another problem, and that's another problem in itself, isn't it? If you haven't got someone that the captain's armband can be passed down to, you know, to the next player that's kind of in the late 20s, you've got another problem again there, haven't you? There's no leadership there, is there?
There's nobody there that was long enough. It's like you need to have somebody there for a long time who knows the Celtics all about, and that's that kind of thing anyway to be passed on.
No.
what's going to happen.
I mean, as you say, maybe Tierney would be, at least someone that did come through the Celtic youth rank and has had experience playing for Arsenal, which again is obviously a good experience to have on a CV for yourself, isn't it? But again, how much football are you going to get out of Tierney when he's quite injury prone?
Yeah. He's getting on as well. Has he not got his late 20s? Another 30?
I think Tierney will be in his late 20s. I don't think he'll be as old as like McGregor, for example. But he's like Tierney's probably of an age now. He's probably like 27, isn't he now? 28, something like that, perhaps. And so he's kind of a good age to be a captain. I don't know of many captains being fullbacks. I think a lot of captains tend to either be a centre back or a defensive midfielder, don't they? Someone that can see that's in the centre of the park and can see everything that's going on going forward, can't they? But it's interesting. This player that we've got on screen now, this Julian Araujo. It's interesting that Celtic have gone for someone that is on. He's obviously a fringe player, but he is a fringe player in the English Premier League. Maybe that's what Celtic need to try and target in this January window. Make use of all of your available loan slots in your squad, and try and loan players that aren't in the reckoning, for some of the Premier League teams right now, because maybe that's the kind of quality that, or kind of the level, if you like, that Celtic can attract currently under a manager that's not, clearly out of his depth. If he obviously needs more time and needs this January window to maybe see who he can bring in. But then when you bring your own players in and you get to the end of February, so another 4 weeks on top of that, if these new players haven't made any difference, I don't think that Nancy makes it beyond February. On that basis. I mean, do you think that Nancy can last till February?
I don't know. As I said, the games I've seen Celtic play have been entertaining. The only thing that's missing really is a striker. See if there's a decent striker by the transfer window. I don't think we see that many defeats. I think we'll probably see him winning a lot more games. He's just not had that finisher up front. I think once he gets that finisher, I think you'll see a big difference. And I think this is what even myself and all the Celtic fans need to have a bit more patience though, just to see what he's going to actually do. I don't think, I'm not expecting anything in this Salford game. I think this is going to be absolutely fucking oh my god. But I think he deserves a transfer window to see what he can actually bring in, see what he can do.
I mean, and this is the thing, isn't it? The signing of Araujo's the start of that, isn't it?
Right.
So I mean, if that's the thing, he's probably just covering for, while Carter Vickers is out injured, isn't he? Really, in essence, when Carter Vickers gets fit again, does Carter Vickers get ahead of this Araujo fella? But again, you'd expect Nancy to eventually play this Araujo because he's Nancy's first signing.
I think his goal for games are very unpredictable. And I think this game tomorrow is the exact same. You might see Celtic playing an absolute blinder. How many Rangers you just don't know. But I just got a feeling that Rangers was just solid. It's going to hit Celtic the break every time. I just got a feeling they're just going to absolutely destroy Celtic tomorrow. I really do.
I mean, I hope not, personally, but but if I mean, and again, I think that if there's going to be two things that are going to be scrutinised tomorrow. One of them's going to be the result, obviously, and then the other thing's going to be the performance. Now, if say for example, if Rangers win 2-1, I don't think that would be a sackable offence, even against the old rival. But if they get walloped like 4-0 or 5-1 or 6-2 or whatever,
You might see Celtic playing an absolute blinder, an absolute hammer Rangers, but yet just not get the ball in it. That's what counts. That's what you need that something clinical up front. This is what the Brabant wants to set up originally. I don't know why Celtic's never rushed in and tried to get an actual striker. you have up front there play against Rangers.
I mean,
I think there's a chance he might start against Rangers with Roger.
yeah. I mean, he could do. I mean, the thing about this is, and the idea of getting a new striker, new strikers that can come in and can score you, 10 goals in half a season, 20 goals in a full season. They're hard to come by for the January transfer window because usually these types of strikers are getting first team games in their, respective teams, aren't they? Teams aren't going to let go a natural striker. Like as much as I think that Pirro would suit Celtic, in terms of being a good goal scorer at that level, I don't think that Leeds will let Pirro go because if we lose both DCL and Mecha, who have both got bad injury histories, we're then probably relying on Okafor and Pirro to do the job up front. Now Leeds have got a young striker called Harry Gray, who you'll have heard of the likes of Eddie Gray, Frank Gray, Andy Gray, who were all capped by Scotland. Well, Harry's the next one on the Gray production line. His older brother Archie got a move from Leeds to Tottenham, and is doing quite well for Tottenham now. But he's not a striker, whereas Harry Gray's a striker. Now Harry Gray's looked very good in Leeds' under-21s, but going from Leeds' under-21s, bearing in mind that Gray's still only 17 years old, or maybe 18 now, he's going from Leeds under-21s to being the main focal point, the main number 9 at Celtic. He's nowhere near ready for that. Talented player, like he will be a good player. There's zero doubt in any Leeds fan's mind about Harry Gray. But there's no way that Harry Gray will be ready for playing for Celtic.
I think this is the problem with Danny Engels as well. He's a young boy. There's a lot of pressure because he signs at 11 million.
It's a lot of money for a young player in the Scottish League, isn't it?
I think it's a transfer record.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think Celtic have ever spent over 10 million on a player. I think it's always been less than 10 mil.
I think we've not spent about 7 or 8 million on Edward.
Yeah. Odds and Edward. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know. I don't even think he's on Palace's books at the minute. I think he's got a loan. I think he's on loan somewhere. Yeah. I mean, you spent a few million on Adamida, didn't you? Adamida, Norwich guy. Yeah. No, he wasn't amazing at Norwich, to be honest. It surprised me when Celtic forked out about 5 or 6 million for him. I'm like, what? You must be off your head.
I think either was in the system, man, because he's banging a lot of goals.
Yeah, well, certainly more than the current bunch, and this.
I think Celtic should look into. I don't know if you remember Jack Mattis. He's put himself as a signer for a Dutch team.
No, it doesn't ring a bell.
He was actually a good player. I think Celtic could do a lot of him. He's got a lot of strength.
I remember you getting Samaras from Man City. He was Greek.
He was lovely.
Yeah. He was a bit hit and miss at Man City, but then he got a move to Celtic and did quite well. Yeah. I mean, this is the other thing as well. When you think of Celtic and Rangers, you think of like a war of attrition, don't you? You always get players scrapping and tough tackling going on, and rough challenges, and players battling for the ball in each box and things like that. And you look at this current Celtic squad. Is there anybody that aside from maybe Callum McGregor, is there anybody that's really up for that kind of fight? I'm not so certain.
At the moment, I think it's up now. So there's no way. When you see the numbers of Martin Hill, see the big difference here. I know they're all funny game, and so the players that are all funny game under Martin, and you see the difference. There's a lot of he brought that kind of strength back to the team. I think players want to play.
That's it.
You see a good back big in that game with Celtic.
Well, I was just having a little look at this again. You know, that this history of this Julian Araujo. So he was actually born in America, but has been capped by Mexico. He even had a spell at Barcelona apparently, but no, he won't have got in at Barca, not a chance.
He's signed from, I think he was Arsenal signed from that American team. But obviously Barcelona have got a good scout system. They must have seen something in him to actually get sign him. Obviously it's just as his chance to play a game for Barcelona.
Yeah, well, they signed him from LA Galaxy, according to this.
Yeah. LA Galaxy, so
yeah.
So it must be decent. It must be decent. Yeah.
There's got to be some potential there, because again, why would Bournemouth then sign him for the Premier League? You know, there's got to be something there, but that's it. You know, you don't go to Barcelona if you haven't got something about you. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, let's see what happens between Celtic and Rangers. You say the match is tomorrow, is it?
Well, it starts at 2:30.
Yeah. Right.
Also, when you're Celtic was TV, but imagine maybe Sky Sports near then. Sky Sports football.
Yeah. Yep. There you go. Just 11 hours and 49 minutes until that magic kick-off. Yeah.
It's the second biggest rival in the world. It's the top one, I think, Boca Juniors and River Plate, I think.
Aye. They hate each other's guts massively. Yeah.
Second to that, I think. I'm pretty sure what I read before.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, massively. And the thing is as well, you know, I don't know if this will allow us to see the current Scottish Premier League table. I think I'll have to bring up a new tab. Hold on. Right, Scottish Premiership table. Let's have a look. Right. It'll show a bit small. Hold on, I might be able to make that a bit bigger. One second. Nope. Wrong way. Yeah. Can make that bigger. There you go. That's a bit better. But I mean, yeah. I don't know why it says that Nygren's got 0 goals. I don't know what's going on there. It needs an update. But yeah, so I mean, as far as the table's concerned, you know, you're 3 points ahead of Rangers. Form guide, Rangers have only lost 1. Celtic have lost 3 out of the last 5. You know, Celtic can go level with Hearts at the top. Rangers can go level with Celtic in second. You've got Celtic on plus 15. You've got Rangers on plus 11. So the stats at the moment: Celtic have played 19, won 12, drawn 2, lost 5, which just seems ridiculous. I don't think I've ever seen Celtic lose 5 games after 19 matches. That's dreadful. 33 goals scored, which is obviously very good. And 18 conceded is not a disaster out of 19 games. You know, it's not terrible, and gives you a plus 15 goal difference. And then with Rangers, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it was part of that Martin O'Neill period, wasn't it? With Rangers, they're on 9 wins, 8 draws, and 2 losses. They've only scored 27, but they've only conceded 16, so they've got plus 11. So basically, Rangers would have to beat Celtic with at least a 4-goal margin to, for the two of them to swap positions. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I bet if we went on Rangers' squad, I mean, they've got Danny Role, who's, potentially a decent manager. But if we go onto the enemy, I know. Oh, I know. It's blinding. It's terrible. I'm just seeing what you're up against. Oh, I know. This would be like if I was putting the manure website on. I'd be ending the recording right now. But in terms of what you're up against, I mean, Butland. I mean, fuck's sake, Leeds had Butland on loan. He was pants. Tavernier is actually well. His brother Marcus is actually he plays for Middlesbrough. He's actually born. His brother Marcus is actually born in Leeds. I don't know if James Tavernier is born in Leeds. Max Aarons was actually part of Daniel Farke's Norwich team. Why is that just going down like that? That's annoying. Hold on. Accept all cookies. Yeah. Suter. Don't know. Is it John Suter that? Yeah. Cornelius, don't know anything. Encelia, don't know. Sterling, got to be related to Raheem, surely. Giga, Magoma, Fernandez. I don't even know who half of these are. No, well, I mean, this again is a shell of what they used to be into. If we're gonna have any half of 1% of respect of what they used to be, which is very tiny, very minuscule. They are still the scum of Scottish football, right? But they probably look at the Rangers fans probably look at their Rangers squad and think exactly the same of what Celtic think of Celtic's current squad. It's crap overall. Rothwell, as I say, he was on loan at Leeds last season when Leeds got promoted, and he's a very good set piece taker. So one thing Celtic will have to be aware of is that if Rangers have got Rothwell on set pieces, you're gonna have to watch it. He is a good set piece taker. Barron, don't know. Diamande, never heard of him. Asgard, I get the feeling he was at a championship club last season, and I can't think who. Bajrami, don't know. Cameron, don't know. Matondo, I think he was in the championship last season as well. Kieran Dowell, God, is he still playing? Fucking hell. He's getting on a bit now. Raskin, I think he's Romanian or something. I don't know.
Belgian.
Oh, is he Belgian? Oh, right, okay. Rice, I don't know, maybe Declan's brother, who knows. Chimiti, no idea. Ant-Man! We got Marvel DC going on here. Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Gossamer, he was at Sheffield Wednesday. He looked a lively little player, actually. They had Masaba and Gossamer as the two wingers, did Sheffield Wednesday, and they were the two players that actually looked half decent at Sheffield Wednesday. The rest of them were crap. Miovski, never heard of him. Moore. Oh, he was on loan in the Championship. Mikey Moore, I think he is. if I remember right. He was on loan in Championship. I think it might have been West Brom. Showed a bit of promise, but kind of average. Curtis, no idea. Danilo, never heard of him. And look at his number, 99. Squad number 99. What the fuck's that? What a load of shit. Get that off my screen. Wait. You know, when you look at their squad, they're not good. You know, that is not a good squad either. You know, the two superpowers of Scottish football are currently in the shit. I'm sorry, Kev. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, right? I want to kind of finish this up with asking you one question. If Celtic were to offer Hearts as much money as possible for Lawrence Shankland, would you take him?
Nah.
You don't reckon he'd do a job for Celtic?
I think he's Celtic. I think he's for Hearts as soon as you see it, if you've got a big deal somewhere, you see the same thing that's happening here. Celtic players leaving for other clubs. I just don't think
It's kind of like the size of the fish in the size of the pond. He's kind of like big fish, small pond for Hearts, and then he becomes a small fish in a big pond at Celtic and possibly struggles. Because I mean, the thing is, like, there was supposedly interest in Shankland in the English Championship, and nobody took him on. You know, obviously to Hearts' delight, but you know.
I guess the championship
So he's just having a purple patch, just like the entirety of Hearts are. That's fair enough, isn't it? But yeah, I think, you know, having looked at the entire squad at Celtic, they need a massive overhaul. You know, if they're going to get to anywhere like the quality of some of the players that they've had in, even some of the players within the last 10 years, you know, it's a relatively small time period, and so, you know, there's such a drop off in quality. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully Celtic don't get walloped. We don't want anything like that. I mean, this.
Well, but I think Rangers will be more solid than I got that Celtic today. This is just going to Celtic up here. Or I think it's going to be a better route. Celtic trying to play the same system.
What's your score prediction?
Well, they're trying against Roma. You see the second half, harmony against Roma. If they are same system, these systems like that.
No.
And this is Rangers are a big team. They're a big team. And they can't Celtic kind of go on like that against them. They have to grind out a result here for them. I just don't see that against them. I think he's stubborn. I think he's set in his ways.
This Nancy fella, really, like as I say, he got really irate when, you know, really defensive when asked a particular question in one of his post-match interviews, and he.
You should see the voices today. You should watch that. It's like the same thing there as well.
Yeah. I think if I try putting it on this media conference, I think if I try putting it on this video, the video will probably get taken down. So I'll watch it after we finish the recording now. But yeah, as of recording, that, you know, this is where Celtic are at. That is the current squad. They've brought in one new player so far in January. I mean, at least the signs that they're bringing players in as early as possible. It's a relatively early signing. You know, January transfer window's only been open a couple of days, and they've already brought in a player. So from that point of view, it's a positive thing. But, you know, we don't know what the quality is going to be like of these players that are brought in, and we don't know how they're going to fit into Nancy's system. If
let go, you go. Another replacement. It's the whole recruitment. The they get the goal in. It's just no. It's unforgiving if they're posting. I can see why the Celtic fans are really frustrated about it. They want to go out.
Well, I mean, even your chairman Peter Lowell, that had been there for God knows how long, basically stepped down at the end of 2025, didn't he?
I think he's getting threats or something like that.
Yeah. There were like threats to his family or something, which was horrible. But again, it was all because of this bloody Wilfred Nancy situation.
Nobody wants to work. That's just.
It's not great, is it? But it is what it is now, and you don't have to put up with it anymore. But the Celtic need to change something. Something's got to change, and it's got to change quick if they're going to have any chance of getting, top spot this season. I mean, there is still quite a few games to go, isn't there? So it's not like it's end of season territory or anything like that. But the form's got to improve in terms of results. Some of the performances might be getting there slowly, but it's all about getting those points on the board. Because again, it all happened a bit weird. The fact that O'Neill left just before the cup final, and then Nancy comes in and Celtic get massively humbled in that cup final. They should have done. In my opinion, they should have just asked Martin to stay on one more game, manage the team through that cup final, get that cup won, get some silverware again, and then consider their options. But don't do it one match before a final. Yeah. Well, so I mean, all of this then, Kev, is right at the top of the club, isn't it? These are the decision makers.
That's what needs to change. It needs to change the clock. That's the problem. Why?
Yeah.
Obviously, my respect to consider results and stuff like that, but it's still has focus is what happened. It's more the talking.
I mean, it's one of these where everything, it almost feels like Celtic needs an absolute rebuild from the very top all the way down. So that's that's the boardroom, that is the management and the coaches, that is the players. Everything from top to bottom needs an absolute overhaul. And the thing is that when you look at some of that Celtic squad, it's players that used to play in the English Championship. You've got a striker that played in the Irish League. It's not a good calibre of player. If we're going to say one thing about this Araujo fella, he's been on the books of a current Premier League, current English Premier League team. He's been on the books of one of the superpowers of world football in Barcelona. But then on the flip side, he's also been in the books of the MLS. So, exactly.
City actually look at Jonas, but he's actually won a La Liga. Barcelona has actually got a trophy. He's got a medal for winning the trophy, winning the league. Yeah, never played any games. Maybe was a sub or something like that. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't think that counts for actual appearance, does it? It does.
Not really. I mean, Barcelona haven't really replaced the partnership of Puyol and Piqué. That was that they were the superpower centre back pairing for a long time at Barca. I mean, they've got former Leeds winger Rafinha, who's become one of the best defensive players in the world since his move to Barca. I mean, he was good at Leeds, but he's become an absolute worldie at Barca. I was kind of hoping, just tongue in cheek, that Leeds might just contact Barca and say, can we just borrow Rafa for the last 5 games of the season? just get an emergency loan in. Rafa celebrated us staying in the Premier League last time. Well, they could do the same again. Just loan him, even just for the last game of the season. Let him come in on loan and get either 3 assists or 3 goals or something. You know what I mean? Never happened. Never happened. But it's. I think there needs to be a big rebuild at Celtic. From the outside looking in, and kind of get the impression that you kind of feel the same. Being a Celtic fan yourself, that
The honest truth, Hearts, if they want to stay for the league, they're going to have to spend some money to stay up there. And you bet your money mortgage the Rangers are going to spend a bit of money as well. Will they
well,
get a bit of money?
I've heard
Celtic Hearts are strength.
I've heard that Arts are owned by Tony Bloom, the guy that owns Brighton,
Aye.
and Tony Bloom is a professional poker player. That explains how he had the money to be able to buy Brighton, and he's obviously had enough success to then go and buy Hearts, and this is why Hearts have done better this season, because there's been some proper investment put into the club. But it's also been helped by the fact that the two main teams that usually vie for the top of the table have not been of the same level this season, and not been of the same quality. It's let Hearts in effectively, But again, Hearts will have to spend money, but they have an owner that will spend money. That's the thing.
See, that's the thing as well. When Danny Rose when the Rangers, I think he's been in basically the same situation as Johnson. He's basically held for once. It's a ship a wee bit.
Yep.
And that's the difference. So I think if the role of gets his transfer kitty, that's the Rangers and this is yourself. We're going to watch this.
Well, I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? Because you've got Roll, who has just before he managed Rangers, he was managing Sheffield Wednesday, who are in financial crisis, and Roll left because Chansiri, who was the current owner at the time, couldn't guarantee Roll that there was going to be money available to spend. And so he's like, well, I've got an offer from Rangers, I'll take it. And Sheffield Wednesday had to basically sack out. There were players that weren't being paid, and they weren't being paid to a point of where the players then could rip up their contract and leave. And there was only really one senior player that stayed on, and then it was a bunch of kids. This is why Sheffield Wednesday are currently bottom of the league, because they've been deducted points for going into administration, but then at the same time they haven't got a squad to compete. They were doing, but they've picked up a bit since. They actually took on former Leeds striker Patrick Bamford, and he's apparently doing quite well, but they only took him on a short-term contract. So they're going to have to decide in January now, do they extend his contract at end of season or whatever. Yeah, I mean, at one point, both Sheffield clubs were in the relegation zone in the Championship. Yeah, it were interesting. They brought back Chris Wilder, the manager, and I don't know if they've still got Wilder, but they've pulled away a little bit from relegation zone now. I think they might be about 18th or something like that out of a 24-team division. So they have pulled out a bit.
I used to have a soft spot for them for Sheffield Wednesday. They had their first Celtic as well. Simon Donnelly.
Aye, Donnelly. I think hasn't Donnelly moved into coaching now?
Well, I've always seen Simon Donnelly in the Celtic TV. He's up in it.
Oh, is he? Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Simon Donnelly.
Who did?
Di Canio.
Oh, Di Canio. God, yeah. Well, Di Canio played for West Ham. He went on to manage Swindon Town, and he was really controversial about the goalkeeper that they had. Him and goalkeeper Wes Fodringham had a fight. Yeah, that was controversial as hell, was that?
I remember that.
Yes, I don't know what to... Say again, sorry? I think he might be about fourth choice at West Ham at the minute or something. I think he's like... Yeah. I mean that all went tits up as well, didn't it? So yeah. Well, I've just seen this, right. The video's up to 2 hours now, so I think we better probably call it a do. It's it.
Oh, I think.
Yeah, it's a 2 hour video, but no, I've enjoyed that. It's been great getting your opinion on the current state of Celtic, and yeah, excellent stuff. So thanks a lot for.
As I say, no problem. I'll probably get shot down for losing some Celtic fans, but it's my view. So
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone's every fan is entitled to their own opinion, aren't they? But we'll leave it at that. Everyone that watches the video, big thank you for watching. Do please like the video. Do please hype it and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you all next time.